Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Enlightening Your Way. I am your host, Nancy Lombardo, and I'm ecstatic to be starting my third year on this show with you. So welcome. We are airing live here on the official Lilydale Facebook page and YouTube channel. I'm a year-round resident here in Lilydale and the president of the Church of Living Spirit, which is an independent spiritualist church here on the grounds. I'm a military veteran, a retired police detective, and fitness and yoga instructor, and wellness is my passion. My show is a combination of my many life experiences that will feature various topics and guests to help enrich one's mind, body, and soul on your pathway to healthy living. My website, Wellness with Nancy Lombardo, where my motto is protecting and serving your well-being. And I'm so happy to introduce our guest today. Diane Keally is a Pittsburgh-based psychic medium and paranormal investigator. Diane has investigated dozens of locations around the country as she seeks evidence of what happens when the physical body ceases to exist. As a spiritual medium, she believes that paranormal investigation can provide physical proof of the continuity of life after death. She has investigated some of the most active locations in the country, but her favorite place to investigate is her spiritual home, which she calls the most spirit-filled little town in America. Welcome, Diane.
Nancy, thank you so much for asking me to join you this evening. I appreciate it.
Can I ask you a question? Do you have your cell phone on? Because I'm getting some kind of feedback, and I don't know if you could hear it or...
No, it might be my dog snoring, honestly. That's right. I just woke him up.
I said it's echoing, and I don't know where that's coming from.
No. I turned my cell phone off, but I don't know. It could be my dog.
Okay, that's weird. Go ahead. All right. Well, welcome, and thank you for being on the show. I know you, but I don't really know you. So I would love for you to just tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Again, thank you for asking me to join you this evening. I'm a spiritualist, and I came to Lilydale for the first time 10 years ago, walked through the gates not knowing a soul. And to this day, some of my best friends are in Lilydale. And I was a seeker. I've been a medium my whole life, but didn't know what that meant. As a little girl, just talking to spirits all over the place, but didn't know what to do with it, didn't understand it. But when I came to Lilydale, I found instructors, like-minded people, mediums, and really started to understand mediumship, became a spiritualist, really deeply fell in love with spiritualism, joined Church of the Living Spirit. But with that, I also started to become a paranormal investigator. And because what I start from my own understanding is there's just another realm that I wanted to understand. So if they're speaking through my head, through mediumship, right, if we call it mental mediumship, to me, if I then take some equipment, whether it's a recorder or my camera or some electrical equipment, then I can actually get physical proof in addition to mental mediumship and offering, what we call the proof that I'm able to offer you with evidential mediumship. And so to me, it's a whole other layer of offering proof that there is more to this physical body once it ceases to exist. And so, to me, it's just been such a fascinating journey. And Lilydale has been, I call it my playground because it's such a positive, beautiful, spirit-filled place. And so I take my photos, I take my recordings with nothing but respect, and the spirits just walk those grounds. And it's just such a beautiful place to find that evidence, not just with mental mediumship, but then also with my paranormal investigating. So that's a little bit about me. I'm based in Pittsburgh, but I'm literally in Lilydale maybe every other weekend, sometimes every weekend during season. And it is my spiritual home. So.
Have you always been in Pittsburgh?
No, actually I've lived all over the country. I'm born and raised in Pittsburgh. I moved around. I'm in the hotel business. I've been in the hotel business almost 30 years. And I moved home about 13 years ago to take care of my mom, who was ailing, and moved her in with me. And that's actually whenever I started my journey with Lilydale, being much closer, only 2.5 hours away from Lilydale. I was able to drive up and back much easier. I was in Arizona and Florida and Virginia and South Carolina. And so, but once I got back to Pittsburgh 13 years ago, I said, oh, okay, now I've heard of this place called Lilydale. I'm going to start going up there and checking things out, and just absolutely fell in love with it. So many of my friends say the same thing, that once you cross those gates, you just know you're home. And I did the same thing. Literally, the first time I crossed those gates, I just said, this is it. I don't know what I was seeking, but I found it and it's here. And yeah, it's hard for me to take summer vacations anyplace else, because when I take time off of work, I just want to go to Lilydale for the week and spend my time up there. But yeah, no, since my mother has just transitioned into spirit, and as I think about the next part of my life, I don't know, you might find me closer to Lilydale. Who knows? I may end up purchasing a home closer to Lilydale and saving some mileage on my car.
I'm so very sorry about the loss of your mom. That's such a tough loss.
Thank you.
People think that mediums, or we don't experience, that type of loss because we understand the continuity of life, but it's still a loss nonetheless. It is still just a very hard loss for anybody. And so thank you for being here after all that, for sure. I know you said, but how did you find out about Lilydale? Did someone say something, or?
The movie, No One Dies in Lilydale.
Oh.
And actually, what's interesting is Chautauqua Institute was what was on my radar originally when I lived elsewhere in the country. And then I knew about Lilydale from the movie. But I had originally thought, oh, I'm going to go to Chautauqua Institute. But then for some reason, I ended up going to Lilydale first. It called to me. And then literally, I didn't make it to Chautauqua until last year. So I got called to Lilydale first, and then I just kept getting called back. And Chautauqua is wonderful, but I just kept getting called to Lilydale. So, but it was the movie that I had seen, and I said, oh, these are my people. I need to make it there. And it's the like-minded people who just allow you to be yourself. And as a little kid, my family allowed me to. They never discouraged me from talking to spirits on the side of the road, spirits in my house, my imaginary friends. I mean, I was just talking to everybody. Nobody ever discouraged it, but I also didn't have anybody to encourage it. And, for example, we have a children's week. I wish I had known of Lilydale when I was younger. To attend something like Children's Week as a child would have changed my world. But, I found it when I was supposed to. Divine timing. It is what it is. But yeah, it wasn't until, later in life that I discovered Lilydale through the movie, and then, said, oh, okay, I need to go check it out. So.
Was it later in life that you also developed your mediumship skills?
It was, because I didn't know what was going on. It's in my 20s. I remember it was almost like a parlor trick. I remember, going to a bar and, doing psychic stuff and a little bit of mediumship to get people to buy me drinks. And, to me it was, and freaking people out too. It was like, oh, I don't know how you know things. I'm just going to walk away now. And going, I don't know. I just know things. And, sorry, I just know your grandma looked like this. And, and that's what she's saying to me. But I didn't know how to use it the right way. And I also remember upsetting people too, because I didn't know how to say things the right way.
Right.
And the first time I came to Lilydale, I was sitting on the porch of the hotel, and I met a healer, and I was just talking to her, and I said, I don't like making people cry. And she said, crying is healing. You just need to learn how to say things the proper way. And that is exactly what I needed to do. It was just, I needed to, discernment, what needs to be shared with people, as opposed to maybe some things that, we hold back on, and, not everything needs to be shared. And how do you say it properly? And, so that we don't hurt them, but we share it in a way that they feel, the love from spirit, as opposed to maybe words that might feel a little prickly. And, I just needed to learn to do it the right way. And, I'm forever grateful to my mentors and teachers and the classes that I've taken in Lilydale to better understand that. And since then, I share that information even outside of the gates of Lilydale, as I come across people who they themselves are learning, I always say, you need to come to Lilydale, but let's have a conversation until you can get there. And let me share some of the things that I've learned while I was in Lilydale. So,
I love that.
Yeah.
I was actually told the other day about the tears, not only are they healing, but they're also like a release of fear.
I love that.
So, yeah, I love that too. Someone said that. I thought that's very interesting. I like that. So how did you go from mediumship to paranormal investigating?
Sure. It was actually more about practice. I remember saying to another friend who's a medium who I met in Lilydale, we were both interested just, a little bit in paranormal. We had seen some of the TV shows and we had said, well, we know that we can speak with the loved ones on the other side. Wouldn't it be interesting if we went into a so-called haunted location and ask them questions, because we want to go with respect, but we want to know their stories too. And so wouldn't it be interesting to go in and maybe practice and see if we can connect with the spirits that are in these locations and ask them and find out why they're there and why they're staying and what happened to them and hear their stories. And so that was really not the first time we ever went. A friend and I just said, let's just practice and see if we can connect. No equipment. We took flashlights and really that was it and we could connect. And that's all we did. And what was interesting was absolutely, obviously you can connect anywhere with anybody. And so it did work. We went in blind, was a location we paid to get into. We always do things on the up and up and legal. And that's obviously, the only way I would ever tell people to do things. We never go any place illegally, but we go into this location, but we didn't do any research on it. That was one of the things with mediumship. Just like when we do a reading for somebody, I don't want to know your last name. I'm never going to Google you. I don't want to know that information. So we went in blind to this location, and sure enough, we started having a conversation with mental mediumship with an inmate. And afterward, we went to talk to the tour guides, and they confirmed, they're like, yes, there's a lot of information about this inmate that you were connecting with. And so that just kind of started, for me to say, okay, these were people that, clearly they're people at one time, just like our loved ones on the other side. Even if in the worst of locations, a prison, where obviously most of the time they did something horrible to get in there, they were somebody's child and something happened to them. And then they go into this prison. I want to know their story. And maybe that could ultimately release them of the binds that keep them in this prison. And so I want to be able to hear from them and tell their stories. And so that's really what got me on to this path. And so not even, not necessarily horrible places. I investigate homes and businesses, and I love nursing homes. I was at a nursing home investigating last night, actually. It's a lovely place. A friend of mine owns it, and it's really great energy. They love the elderly residents love when we come to visit. They're just fun and they're jokesters. And this one beautiful elderly spirit woman named Anna talks to us about baking and Christmas, and just to me, that's fun. I love telling her story. And she has 3 children. She tells us these things, not all through mediumship, but through our recorders and, those types of things. So again, it's just further evidence that once this physical body ceases to exist, there is something more. We are having not just mental mediumship communication, but physical communication through a recorder, through her voice, through all the equipment that we have to show that there is more after this. The spirit goes on, and spirit always wants to communicate with us. So it's beautiful. To me, it's just another step further in what we're already doing in Lilydale. It's a natural step, a natural part of what we're doing in Lilydale already.
I think sometimes people might need that. They need that kind of evidence, because especially the non-believers. I also tell people that we kind of stay away from words like haunting or evil spirits or the darkness, because it's not about that, is it?
No, not at all. It's a lot of us talk about if you watch these shows on YouTube and some on TV, to get the clicks, everybody says there's a demon everywhere, and some spirits are cranky. They are. Some people are cranky in the human form, right? I mean, some people are just cranky. And sometimes there are cranky spirits on the other side. My grandpa was cranky. I bet he's cranky on the other side too. But they call everything demons. That's not true. We know, and especially as spiritualists, we know that there is so much love when they go across to the other side, and they just want to communicate with us, and share that love and their knowledge and their wisdom with us. But it's nothing to be afraid of. And we hear over and over that they just want to share that information with us, and that they love us and they're proud of us, and they that there's nothing to be afraid of, and they want to be remembered for who they were, not how they died, not how the bad things maybe that happened in their lives. They want to be remembered for who they were. And that's where telling their stories comes in. And it's so important to them to tell their stories. Just like that nursing home. This Anna that I love to talk to when I go to this nursing home that my friend owns. Anna doesn't want to remember. I never even ask her, how did you die, Anna? Because it's such a small sliver in her life. She wants to tell me about her 3 kids. She wants to tell me about Christmas. She wants to tell me about how she loved to bake. She wants to tell me how she lived her life. And that's how she wants to be remembered. And when we do mental mediumship, these are the same things that come through when we do evidential mediumship. And so to me, again, it's that same parallel. And so, do we come across cranky spirits once in a while? Yes, just like I do at the grocery store when I come across somebody who's having a bad day. But then we give them grace and say, okay, maybe there's some cranky spirits, but it's nowhere. I can tell you honestly, in all the haunted locations that I have been to, and I have been to many famous ones, the big ones that you see on television, the only thing I'm afraid of are bats. I swear to you, I am not afraid of any. I have seen shadow figures. I have heard disembodied voices and screams, and I've been touched. I've been shoved. To me, they're trying to get your attention. The only time I truly get scared is when I see a bat flying at my head. But I'm not afraid of the spirits because because of my spiritualist beliefs, that I know that this is truly the continuity of life, that is a spirit and a soul. Even in some of the worst haunted locations, such as a prison or an asylum or something, that's a human soul that's a soul that was human at one point. And so it doesn't scare me. And I tell people who want to maybe do this someday, I always ask them, are you afraid of the dark? If you're not, you can do this too. There's no reason you can't. So.
And that's the point, that fear that we were talking about. And many of the shows, they commercialize that fear and want to make it into all the spooky, haunty, but they're spirits. And you're right. They're trying to reach and communicate, and it's not about spooky and haunting and demons. It's just not about that.
No, it's not when we do mediumship either, right? I mean, when we're doing mediumship, I don't have somebody, when I'm doing mental mediumship, I don't have somebody yelling at me or threatening me, or never, ever, ever. And I'm sure all of our medium friends would say the same thing. That doesn't happen. They come through and they share love and pride and for their loved ones and all of those things. They don't do any of that. They come through with all of that love. And in some of these places that we go, they just want to share their stories. They want to be heard. They want to be seen. And I really feel that if we can continue to do that through paranormal, then we can convince people or prove. And I think you have to, I really believe you have to experience it firsthand. And that's why I love doing this in Lilydale too, to take people and show them firsthand. If you can have a firsthand experience, if you hear it from me, who cares? That lady had an experience. She could be lying, who knows? But if you have it firsthand, it's just like having a reading, just like sitting in front of a medium and having a reading and saying, okay, there's another form of proof for me to say that there is something more that's happening past this physical experience. That once this physical body ceases to exist, there is something more past that. And we as spiritualists understand that. We know that deeply, and that's why we're spiritualists. But the people who come seeking, the people who come through those gates, who come with curiosity and, want to have readings with us, they are still seekers. They want to ask those questions. They want to hear from their loved ones. They still have questions.
Mm-hmm.
And the same with the paranormal. That's why we go out night after night in the middle of the night and lose sleep and spend a lot of money, and because we're still seekers too. And, I think I have a lot of my answers, but there are a lot of people who still want those answers and still seek to have that amazing evidence. Because we all want to have that experience. And so with the paranormal, it's the same. I think you have to have a firsthand experience. And so,
So
I just, who cares if I had an experience? Come with me and come have an experience with me.
So I purposefully left off the locations. You said some of the big locations off of your bio when I introduced you, because I wanted
Yep.
to ask you that question about some of the places you have. You said they're very famous, and what's your favorite one?
That's really hard to say because they're all different. But I'll say some of the best, most famous ones that I've been to, the people would know, Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in Weston, West Virginia. I've been to, of course, Pennhurst Asylum over in Eastern Pennsylvania. West Virginia Penitentiary is one of my favorites in obviously West Virginia. But I will say that some of my absolute favorites are ones that people don't know. And, for example, the one that I went to last night that I've been to several times, it's this beautiful nursing home that's obviously been closed for many years, but not many people go there. And or private homes, antique stores. I was in an antique store in a tiny little town in Virginia, and it's an open antique store. And I just got to chatting with the owner, and he says, "Oh, we're haunted. We're definitely haunted." And I was like, "Oh, really? Tell me about that." And he says, "Oh, there's this guy in the basement. His name is something, and he's just a jokester and this and that." And I said, "Well, how do you know all this?" And he says, "Oh, I just talked to him, and he's done some things." And I said, "Well, I have my equipment in the bag and in my bag in the car." And he says, "Well, will you come back after the store closes?" And I said, "Don't threaten me with a good time." Okay. So sure enough, I went back after the store closed, and some of the employees came back after the store closed, and we did a fabulous investigation, in the basement. And sure enough, all this stuff was happening just like the owner had said. And nobody had ever investigated there. It was just firsthand experiences that these employees who had worked there for years had had. So some of my favorite things I've experienced, and it was probably somebody who was watching over that store. It was probably somebody who just loved that building and was watching over it for who knows how long. So things like that to me, again, just proves that there is continuity, that there is this man who's hanging out in that antique store, and I'm sure he's still there. It's not a bad thing. He's not mean. He's not anything. He's lovely. And the owner was like, "Yeah, we love him. Everybody knows he's down in the basement." So yeah, I mean, I've investigated many of these larger locations. They're active, they're interesting, they're fascinating. But some of my favorites are just smaller places and people's homes. And yeah, in fact, and do you mind if I tell you a quick story
Oh, love it.
about, you had mentioned demon, about how people think everybody has a demon. Many, many years ago, a friend of mine knows I do this kind of thing. And she had said, another friend who you don't know, she thinks she has a demon in her house. Would you mind coming over? And it was just a mediumship thing. I wasn't even going to investigate. And I said, "Yeah, sure." So I come over and I meet her and I said, "Okay, well, what's going on?" And she says, "Well, there's a religious picture in the second floor bedroom, and the picture keeps getting knocked off the wall. And I'm there. It's a demon that's doing it." And I said, "Okay, well, take me upstairs and let me see." So she takes me upstairs, and sure enough, this picture had been knocked off the wall again. And I said, "Well, leave me alone in the room for a few minutes and let me spend some time in there." So they go downstairs, and I mental mediumship. I said, "So what's going on?" And it was a woman, and she says, "It's just an ugly picture." And she says, I don't mind the religious part of it. She says, it's just ugly. Could you ask her to just get a different picture? And sure enough, it was not a very pretty painting. And I said, okay. So I laughed, and it took me a few minutes, an extra couple of minutes, because it was an easy answer. So I go downstairs, and the woman, the owner of the place, she says, oh, so what's a demon, right? And I said, well, no, I said, there's a woman of the house, a spirit, and she just thinks it's an ugly painting. And she asked if you could get a different one. And she's, oh, I'm just telling you what the spirit said. So I go about my business, and I see my friend a couple of months later. And I said, well, how's your friend doing with this so-called demon and this ugly painting? And she says, oh, she still thinks there's a demon in the house. She doesn't believe you. I said, okay.
Yeah.
So, people will believe what they want to believe, but, sometimes it's just an ugly painting sometimes. So
So I
it's
was
not
wondering,
always what you want to believe.
yeah, totally. So, I like to take pictures, and I've gone out and caught some orbs. People say, well, it's a flash on your camera. No, because I didn't use a flash. I'm in the complete dark. Sometimes, I know that camera picks up stuff that I cannot see with my naked eye.
Yeah.
I know it without a doubt. So I'm wondering what kind of equipment you use.
Yeah, absolutely. Most of the time I just use my cell phone. I have caught, my most stunning photo I caught accidentally. I was not even trying to capture anything. I was on, First Street, and, one of my friends had just,
First Street in Lilydale?
yeah. One of my friends had just purchased a house, and it was nighttime, and she wasn't actually there, but I was very excited that she had just purchased her house. And I was taking a selfie in front of her house, and then took a picture down the street to send it to her, to say, I'm on your street. I'm so excited for you. And, I zoomed in, and I knew there was a house that was unoccupied, that nobody had been living in for quite a while. And I zoomed in on it, and there was a figure of a small woman in the enclosed porch. And I walked down, and I looked. There was not like a hat rack or anything. The enclosed porch was completely empty, because nobody was living there. But when you look at the picture, it's a woman. Looks like her hair's in an updo, very small, petite, short woman. And so I've shown this picture over the years to other people who have lived in Lilydale for a long time. And there are people who remember the woman who lived in that house previously, who said, I know that's the woman who lived in that house previously. I know exactly who that is. And I actually made somebody cry looking at it. Say, I used to have dinner with that woman. I know exactly who she is.
Hmm.
Again, continuity of life, like that. When you look at it and say, I know exactly who she was. 10 years ago, I would have dinner with her. I know exactly who she is. That to me is stunning. And I wasn't even trying to capture anything. That's just Lilydale. That's just the spirits of Lilydale saying, this is an amazing place. I just want to stay here a little longer. I was with a friend. We go out to the stump, and late at night, and just spend time meditating and praying and doing things out there and raising the vibration. And a dear friend of mine took a picture, and it is a man sitting on one of the benches with his arm up over, and it looks like his leg is crossed, clear as day. And another one, a friend of mine there were several of us, several mediums out there, just spending time, again, raising the vibration and having a good time, laughing and spending time together. And one of the medium's sons was standing further back, and he said, I feel like somebody's standing next to me. And somebody snapped a picture, and sure enough, there is a shape, an apparition, looks like a human shape, standing next to him. And if it's not those, those are stunning photos. If it's not, it is orbs and shooting beams of light. I was standing next to the stump one night, and there is a shooting beam of light next to me, and in the picture. And I went back and looked. And if anybody has ever looked at the where the stump is, there are stones where people's names are written in the stones. and I tried to figure out where the beam of light was coming down next to me, not the flagpole, but next to it is a beam of light. And the stone that I think the beam of light is hitting is a stone that says the name Joseph, and that's my dad's name, who's in spirit.
Oh my gosh.
So, and we just take messages and signs and symbols where they're at. And to me, I'm going to take that one. So, it's just things like that, just magical things happen in Lilydale all the time. And, I've captured a lot of things. One of the things we love to do, I have a lot of equipment, and we'll likely do this in a couple of weeks during our little fall fest, is I have a tripwire, and a tripwire basically is EMF. So if you have an electric current of some sort, and we believe that spirits create some type of an electrical current when they come through, and there is no electrical current out at the stump, we will put that up near the stump, and then we'll stand there, and we'll give either messages just like we would at the stump, or maybe we'll just stand there and see, call in our loved ones, or call in the founders. And I also have something called a dead bell, which is also EMF detected, and so it rings when an EMF comes through. Call in the founders, call in some of our beautiful mediums who have crossed into spirit recently, and those things will light up and the bell will ring. And it's amazing because there is no electricity out there. There's nothing, no currents are going through there. And yet we'll raise the vibration, we'll sing, we'll laugh, and all of a sudden these things start to light up around the stump. And it's just amazing. It's amazing to see it happen. But we know that it's such a spirit-filled area, and there's so many beautiful spirits that fill that area with love for all of us. And then to see the equipment go off and to light up for us, again, it's just another proof point that spirit is there for us all the time in that beautiful area. So
I would like to emphasize the people that are listening to this, because we do have a lot of visitors, especially in the summertime, that this isn't done like a circus type environment.
never.
This is, especially the stump, it's such a sacred an honored space for us, and then since the 1800s, and I know you don't take that lightly when you're out there doing that kind of stuff, and we really don't want people to come in here and act like that. We want it to be that honored, sacred place.
Very much so. And as a spiritualist myself, I'm a member of the Lilydale Assembly. I go out to the stump with nothing but respect. And I take people with me, and I show them. We ask for permission to go into the woods. We ask the woods. We ask the Leland Woods, may we come out here and spend time with you? And then we go out, we raise the vibration, we meditate, we pray, and then we ask our founders to come out and support us. And it is our church service. There's no doubt. We go out there with nothing but respect, without a doubt. So no, it's definitely not a circus whatsoever. And some of us go out and just spend time, and sometimes it's just being alone out there and enjoying that energy. I know you do the same. You take your photos and and spend time out there, and it is a sacred space for us, no doubt. And I struggled at times at the beginning, do I use equipment out there? But as I got to the point of understanding that it is another step in proving the continuity of life. It is a physical form of proving the continuity of life. And to me, that made sense. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, that's why I do it, but I would never, ever desecrate that area. I do it only with respect. And I always thank the area and thank the woods and thank, all of our loved ones for coming out and allowing us to use that space. So
I love that thought of asking the woods to come in. That's a really cool thought. So how has this type of evidence heal or be healing for people?
Absolutely. So just like mental mediumship, we do what we're taught in Lilydale, and what many mediums are taught, is evidential mediumship, providing evidence so that for certain that your loved one is with you when we're giving that reading. And so when we take it a step further with the paranormal, to me, it's a physical proof. So for example, let's take that photo on First Street, which to me is the ultimate and accidental. Again, I take the photo, and there are people who've lived in Lilydale a long time who recognized the woman who used to live in that house. And they said, that looks identical to the woman who lived in that house. And I had dinner with her. She was small framed. She was short. She wore her hair like that. And literally somebody who's lived in Lilydale for a long time started to cry and said, I had dinner with her many times. That's her. I know that's her. And so that's it. That is a physical photograph of somebody. And we can say that's somebody in spirit, and showing us and saying, here I am.
Mhm.
I'm still here. I'm still here. And so absolutely, evidential mental mediumship is beautiful. It is beautiful and gives so much healing to people.
Yeah,
And
well,
yet here I can show a photograph and do the same thing with somebody. And that's, it's what we call paranormal. It gets a bad name because unfortunately it gets a bad name because there are people on YouTube for clicks who are doing crazy things. But as a spiritualist myself who does paranormal, I do it for a completely different reason. I'm doing it as an extension of my mediumship, because I think that I know that I can prove, as I do it with respect and do it with my equipment to show that proof, that it's just the next step in showing that there is a continuity of life, just like our mediumship does.
and you're exactly right. There's such a big difference in that. Not only in that, but in the mediums, paranormal, like you said, a lot of them do it for those clicks, and a lot of them are not spiritualists. And there's a big difference in that, in putting that spirituality in it, that holiness in it, and that continuity of life. There's a really big difference in it. I agree with that 100% for sure. So let's talk about Fall Fest, because you touched
Yes.
base a little bit. So do you remember when we did the Fall Fest pre-COVID? We had a Fall Fest. I know we had like a 5, but we got a whole different lineup, and this is so exciting. I hope the leaves are still on the trees because they are falling fast here in Lilydale.
Yes.
Starting off Friday the 24th, we're not starting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Sue Barnes will be doing table tipping, and then Teresa Schaefer will be doing orb photography, and Shannon Taggart will be here also. I think she's coming in on Saturday is her thing, but yours is coming in Friday, right? At 7?
Friday and Saturday. We'll be doing paranormal investigations both Friday and Saturday. You can sign up for either or both. They'll be similar, but they're always different. You never know.
Yours is
So
7 to 9, both times?
7 to 9 or whatever time it ends. Yeah, but 7 to 9 is what we're officially tagged as. Yeah. So whatever spirit, will go at least until 9 o'clock, but whatever time we end. And who knows where we're going to end up, right? We may end up down at, I think we start at the Lyceum, but as long as the weather is okay, we'll end up at the Stump. We'll probably go down to the hotel, maybe the Octagon. I mean, whatever they give us access to, and depending on how many people we have. And honestly, as sensitives, that's also part of paranormal, is what feels active. Where does spirit lead us? Where does spirit want us to be? And so that's going to also be part of what we talk about, is, allowing our, the biggest piece of equipment, the most valuable piece of equipment that you have is your body. So where is it going to lead us to investigate? So, but I do want to give a quick shout out. All of those things are so cool. Table tipping is fun. If you've never done it, it's amazing. It's so much fun to do. Teresa's orb class, awesome. Orbs are amazing. They're so interesting. And if you've not done anything with Shannon Taggart, she's amazing also. Just the coolest. And if you've not seen her book, check out her book. And she's just a really fascinating person. So really just a huge deal that she's coming back to support us for this Fall Fest.
Right. And Alan Jones is going to be doing a walkathon. So if you haven't ever been to Lilydale, it's a really neat experience to be able just to walk around and see Lilydale. We have our beautiful woods, our old growth forest. We have the lake. Myself and Ashley will be doing a dual sound crystal bowl healing journey Saturday morning. We have the second annual meet the fairies. Going to be here in Lilyville, so it's just going to be a really fun weekend. And starting Friday the 24th, and everything is online on the Lilydale Assembly Inc. Website. You can buy tickets; they're all up, and they're there to sell. And no gate fee, right?
Yeah, no gate fee, and it'll be so much fun. And if you haven't done sound bowl healing, oh my gosh, you may just see me at yours because there's just nothing better. I just love it. You know, my personal opinion, fairies are real. If you've not been in our woods and taken some photos, I have some stunning photos of fairies. Also, they will pop into your photos. Also, so you know, especially in our woods. So actually, I did an investigation at a different location and got a stunning photo of a fairy floating up out of some woods. So those are, in my opinion, they're real. I was a skeptic at one point, and I am not a skeptic anymore. So, so that'll be fun too. So it's going to be a really fun weekend.
I think let's hope the weather holds out for us. And you told people to make sure and dress because you guys will be outside, right?
We'll be outside, and just to be clear, so I will have all of my equipment with me. So you don't have to bring anything except for a flashlight, but you have a flashlight on your phone. Dress, you know, accordingly. You know, it's usually chilly in Lilydale this time of year. If it rains, we're going to do it rain or shine. Like I said, if it's raining, we don't ever want to be in the woods when it's raining or windy. It's just not safe. But we have indoor buildings that we can investigate. Most of our buildings are active, if not all of them. But you know, we might be walking outside, so bring rain gear if necessary, but definitely wear warm clothes. If you have any equipment, bring it with, but if you don't have any, don't worry about it. We're going to play with mine. So I have pretty much everything you see on television, and you'll learn how to use it. You can hands-on, you can play with some of it, and we'll see. One of the cool things that everybody asks me about is Estes method. We're going to do Estes method, which is basically a little transistor radio, and we run radio waves backwards with headphones on, and you technically should not hear anything, but we will hear words and phrases, and it's really cool when it happens. So we will definitely be doing that because that's really popular. People love that's the number one thing I hear about is, can we do Estes method? So yes, we'll be doing that.
That's cool.
So yeah, you don't have to bring anything except yourself, a warm jacket, and a phone with a flashlight. So
have you caught the horses at the Maplewood?
No, but it's on my list. It's definitely on my list. Definitely on my list. So,
I hear so many people say they hear the hoofs, they hear them. That's the number one thing I think I hear.
I will say, when I sleep at the Maplewood, though, I get woken up every single time in the middle of the night. People come and chat with me, and it's tough. I mean, that hotel is very active. I mean, it's lovely and beautiful and fun to stay there, but boy, it is active there. But I haven't heard the horses yet. But who knows? Maybe this will be the time we catch them.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Well, I'm always end on my same question I love to ask people. So what is the most important lesson you've learned on your spiritual journey?
To be open-minded, right? I mean, I think the fact that we get to live in this spiritual world and to have these beautiful conversations, and that spirit talks to us and gives us these signs and symbols, and the information that we get, these downloads that we get, and that we get to have, that we get to meet these people from around the world who come to Lilydale. I love to be open-minded, and just open-minded to everything that spirit has to offer. And I'm just endlessly fascinated and curious, honestly. I'm here for it. I love when people walk up to me and say, you might think I'm crazy, but I want to tell you a story. And I'm like, I will not think you're crazy. Believe me. There is nothing you can tell me that I'm just not going to, I'm here for it. Bring it. But I'm so honored and pleased to be on this journey. And the people that I have come across, and that I know I will continue to come across. And yeah, just to be here, to be open-minded and ready for it. And yeah, that's what I'm here for. Yeah. It's
What I love
beautiful.
about
It's a beautiful life.
is everybody answers it differently, and I love to hear the answers. So thank you so very much for joining us this evening. You were incredibly informative, and I'm sure people are going to enjoy watching this. And don't forget to sign up for her workshops, the 24th and 25th of this month. Um, Thank you again, Diane, for sure. I'll be
Thank
back
you.
in 2 weeks for another episode of Enlightening Your Way. Please check back on this Facebook page, the official Lilydale Assembly Facebook page, for everything going on and off season. And also my page, Moments with Nancy Lombardo, Instagram, nancy.k.lombardo, where my motto is protecting and serving your well-being. My name is Nancy Lombardo, and I wish you all a good evening. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.